right at 3 p.m. Eastern time. So, gonna get started on time today because we got a whole lot to cover today. Gonna start by just throwing a poll out there too. But first, let me welcome everybody. This is class number 4 of the UserGems Classroom series for SDR leaders. Over the past few sessions, we've talked about different outbound motions and how signals can smarter outreach. Today, we're going to focus on something that almost all outbound teams out there have struggled with at some point or another, prioritization. So, most teams do try scoring at some point or are forced to try scoring by their marketing team passing them scored list. Basically, usually you roll out a scored list and tell the team, hey, start here. And then usually what happens next is reps end up ignoring said list. And then, yeah, then you wonder why you gave them the list in the first place. So today we're going to talk about why that happens and how scoring should and could actually work. And then I'll walk through how this looks for us here within our user gems and how we use that for our account scoring. But first, I'd like to just ask the question of how many of you have rolled out some type of scoring or prioritized account list to your reps before. Let me just see if I can figure out how to do this. Let's publish that poll. All right, I think that's published. So that poll should have showed up on your end. Feel free to throw your vote in there. Looks like we're at 100% already. But let's get rolling here. So first off, to just kind of set the agenda for today, how we're going to spend our time. First, we're going to start with the prioritization problem because don't most teams struggle with these generalized lists. So they tend to struggle with figuring out which accounts actually deserve attention today. Then we're going to talk about what scoring should actually do because scoring well should simplifies your prioritization, not make it more complicated. And after that, we'll spend most of the time in a live walkthrough where I'm going to show you how this actually works inside the product. Most of that walkthrough is going to be focused from the SDR leader side, from our perspective, where the scoring model and prioritization logic are actually defined. But at the end of showing you inside that, I'll also show you how the rep experience looks as a result of the work that we've done. And you'll get a glimpse at that inside the Chrome extension that the reps would be using to work out of. So, why reps are ignoring scored lists? Let's start there. Um, so it's incredibly common. So if your reps have done this, no shame on you and no shame on them. That's not what we're talking about here. The issue usually it's not the idea of scoring that's the real issue, it's the trust behind it. And reps don't generally trust the score because they don't know what drove it. They can't see what are the reasons behind this. And a lot of times it'll actually contradict what they've actually researched and found themselves, the work they've already done. So they don't want to have spent their time finding great accounts and set those aside for something they don't understand. That just seems like a black box to them. So instead of following the same scoring model, reps default back to their instincts. Rightfully so. They can understand their own workflow and work process and their own prioritization. And if you're not giving them good reasons why, they're going to go with trusting themselves. So scoring should equal fit and signals. This is what it should be made up of. So at a high level, good scoring usually comes down to these two things. Fit answers the question, is this the kind of company we usually win? Things like country company attributes, industry size, whether persona matches, who typically buys your product, all of those sort of things. Signals answer a different question. Is something happening right now, right at this moment, makes this account more likely to engage? So those things could be like a job changer, event engagement, product interest, or just something else happening inside that account. But when you combine those two things, that's where scoring actually becomes really useful and really strong, because reps don't just want accounts that just look like your ICP, that's just giving them a list of like, hey, these are perfect to sell to. They want accounts that look like your ICP and have a reason to talk to them right now. That's where those nice, warmer conversations happen. And that's where prioritization starts to get more interesting. So, let's talk about why most scoring models are failing at doing this. So, a lot of scoring tools are built off of industry averages. But you and I both know each company is very different, right? So industry averages don't take into account what's unique to you, which is super important when we're talking about targeting. And then they require, if you want to build that in, if you're like, hey, this isn't good enough, let's make it better. Generally, that requires a whole data science team, tons of resources to modify anything to make it unique to you, which generally also comes with a big old price tag to use those smart folks' brains. So, most frustrating part here is that generally reps and leaders alike can't see why accounts are prioritized and scored the way they are. And hence, that's where this trust problem comes from. So, what works a lot better than that is building scoring from your own data, from your own CRM data that's more transparent and flexible enough that it can change along with you and along with your motion. So, what we've done different in the way that we're using it differently, this first big thing is where the model really shifts. Like I was saying, instead of using these industry averages and assuming you're the same as everybody else, these benchmarks, we start with looking at your own closed won accounts. So that is super important because every company's ICP looks a little bit different in reality, than it does on paper. So the second piece in that model ends up being custom to that company's data. So if you sell into like mid-market fintech companies, a system learns from that. If you sell into enterprise healthcare, it learns from that. The third piece is that scoring is not static. It's constantly being updated by signals, so real-time signals. So when something meaningful does happen, like a champion moves to another company, someone attends an event, an account starts engaging, that can actually move those accounts up within the priority. And the last piece, which may be the most important piece for SDR adoption, is transparency. Reps can actually see why an account is scored the way that it's scored, because if scoring just splits is giving a number, giving a random number with no explanation behind it, reps are going to eventually ignore it every single time. So this they can actually see which signals are behind, what's the context of the score, and it starts to feel like a prioritization assistant instead of just some list that they're being told to work. So with all of that in mind, let's jump in, to the actual product and show you how this thing actually works. But first, just set the stage again a little bit. Today's build, we're going to look at the scoring model, look and see, going to show you how it's actually built from closed won accounts. And then we're going to look at how those scores turned into prioritized account audience. And then finally, I'll show you how that prioritization shows up for reps inside the Chrome extension. So you'll see both the leader configuration side, and then you're going to see the rep experience side too. All right, let's get into it. I'm gonna get out of this deck and into, oh my gosh, I need more screens, y'all. Two screens is not enough for presentations. I keep learning. Bear with me. All right, let's keep rolling. So yes, we're in the product. Just wanna let me make sure you can see it. Yeah, we're on the right page. Okay. Now let's go. Once we're in the product, I'm gonna start with ICP and scoring. Like we said, this is where we're starting from. So ICP configuration, we're gonna start by creating a whole new ICP. First things first, I'm just gonna call it classroom, if I can type correctly. Classroom ICP. All right. So we've got a name now, and then we're going to select customers as the type who we want to look at. And let's show suggestions here. All right. Let's add this ICP in. Okay, so what this has done is it has given the system our closed won customer list to learn from. So instead of starting with assumptions or industry averages, it's starting with the actual accounts we already know are good customers. Next, we're going to walk through the actual scoring model. Let's get it to review. Guys, I'm working with this live in my instance, so this may take a second to build out. Bear with me, please. So we got the ICP configuration going on over here, and you can see it's looking at all the different industries of our customers, all the different locations, all your general ICP goodies. Try a little refresh. Let's see. There we go. All right. Now we're cooking with fire. All right. So this is our actual scoring in here. This model you can see here is made up of four main parts. Top up here in purple, we have company similarity. This is how much a company resembles your current customers. That can include things like employee size, company growth, tech stack, and other account level traits. If we go down here into the green, we have company signals. So things that are happening or happened at the company, things like hiring, revive, closed, lost, partnerships, funding, and any other custom signals that you may bring in yourself. Um, and then prospect similarity is next in this kind of, I don't know, where are we calling this? Teal, maybe? Teal? This is looking at how much people at that company resemble the types of contacts that typically show up in your pipeline. So those contacts that have been on your closed won opportunities. And finally, we have prospect signals. Those contact level signals. These are things like past champions, new hires, website visitors, intent. You can see all the stuff we got going on in here, and custom signals like event attendees. You can see some of our own in here. Like I said, this is our real live instance, so you guys are getting the inside scoop here. So let's just go back up here into the company similarity and just look into one of these signals themselves. So, has a customer success leader. When you dig in here, you can see a bit more of what is making up each individual score that makes up the larger score here. So you can see what percentage of your customers actually have this trait, and then what's the ratio that's compared to non-customers here. So instead of just getting a score, you can understand why the model thinks that this particular thing matters. And that's a huge part here of what builds that trust later on, right? So let's show how to now adjust these, because that's also all of a big deal as far as transparency and trust in the model is it puts you in control, right? You should know best what works for your company and what really matters, and that can change, right? Sometimes that changes. Sometimes our product changes, and we got to adapt along with it. Your scoring should adapt right along with that. So all these scores are adjustable. So if you know something matters more or less to your business, you can edit those weights. And what's helpful as you make those changes, you can see over here on the right, these top rated accounts will get updated. So this becomes a really practical way for leaders to pressure test the model and fine tune it. So if I was going to change something here, I'll change something. I'm not going to let's maybe not save it because like I said, this is a real life instance and I don't want to get in trouble here. But let's give this one 100 instead. uh, let me let's say 100 instead of 50. Let's see what that does. All right, now see how these top rated account lists just changed and updated here. So that's what we're looking for. All right. Next, let's go over into our top rated accounts here. I'm actually gonna get out of our real ICP and get into the one that we made again so I don't mess anything up here. Let's go to our top rated accounts. Oh, actually, it looks like we're still developing. So let's go back into our actual ICP. All right, so top rated accounts. We can have another class later on this buying stages, but we're not there yet. Let's start at the beginning and just deal with account scoring. So this is where I can review the accounts that the model is actually prioritizing. I can look into the top rated accounts. I can hover over the score here and see what's contributing to it on both the account side and on the contact side. And I can drill into the account to understand which signals and attributes influenced that score. So you can see all these different signals going on here too. All right, next let's look at the company list for just a second here. So this is a nice high level view of the list themselves. So for each list, I can quickly see how many A, B, C, D accounts are in it. And that gives me a fast way to understand overall quality of a list before handing anything over to my team. All right. Now let's now that we've looked at like the whole scoring model and I've showed you how to create an ICP and then the scoring, top rated accounts, company list, let's talk about how you actually use this practically. Scoring's great, but no good if there's no next step, right? So let's see how we make your team actually action this. So let's start by going to an audience, and I'm going to start with an audience that I already have built out and just kind of walk you through this audience. So let's start with this is our ABX audience for that we used for last month for our ABM program. So like I said, real audience. I use pretty similar filters each month, and I'm combining both account level and contact level logic here. But these are very similar of what we use overall from on the monthly basis for our ABX or ABM program. So some things to call out here, the account type, ICP, target. We're looking for persona matchers only. So our persona is built out to ABM. That's including all of our decision maker personas. We don't want anyone that has activity on it within the last 3 months, right? We don't want to have just been working on them and then hit them up again. We like to have a good relationship with our prospects. We don't want them to be sick of us. We want to make sure they have an email if we're going to approach them for this one. And then we're also going to look at the company grade. Back to the account scoring, the company grade is an A grade. So this is really important. This is where that comes into play within our audience. All right, there's you can see we have several other filters on this too. We're looking at that they weren't closed lost recently. They have a LinkedIn. Um, this our WIT account. That means none of our AEs are prospecting them either. So we can add additional signals on as you need. So next, what we want to do is I want to show you a little bit of what the messaging looks like, just a quick preview of the messaging that it comes up with from here based on these filters and based off of the signals that we are looking at here, right? So if I click in here, I can give just a quick preview of the messaging once you have the right audience. And this is where the scoring and signals start to turn into actual outreach. So here I can preview Gemmy's actual messaging and also see all the reasons right here up here to engage. So we can see here the JobRite AI is using a tech stack that we like to sell into. There's recent website visitors at their company happening. They're also hiring for BDRs or SDRs for outbound. So that's great for us. And then we see Wenley, I'm going to say Wenley, was hired 2 months ago. So she's a new hire. That's a great signal for us too. And of course, we want to multi-thread to her being the head of business development. That's a great title for us to be talking to. Just let the AI do its magic to write the email, and here we go. So you can see in the messaging itself, it's taking all these things into account. She just got a new job, so congrats on the new role. Looks like some folks over there have been expressing some interest. They've been on our website, remember? And so as she's building out business development, maybe she's thinking about things like this. And then we like to drop a gift anytime there's a new hire, new job situation going on. And then we're going to ask, maybe it's worth exploring how we can scale, right? We got the CTA. So you can see how the AI is weaving in these different things into the messaging itself. Next, what I want to show you is how to build the actual campaign using all of this. This is where it all gets put into action. So let's jump over into campaigns and let's build one. So we're going to start a new campaign. Let's start it from scratch. And let's select the audience. Let's go with the same one we were just looking at so we stay consistent. All right, we're going to use that audience and we're just going to focus on the outbound side of things. If we wanted to make some ads to go along with this, then we could on the ad side of things push over there into LinkedIn, but we're going to do the outbound side. So first things from the outbound side is going to be we have our main audience here, and then we can determine what scheduling we want. So let's run it daily, weekdays, 8 a.m. Let's limit it to 5 contacts per company. That's our standard kind of that we usually go with. Total contacts overall, let's say 50 per day. All right, so you can set your limitations there. All right, and then we're gonna add another action on here. Let's add the action to create or update the records within the CRM. So that's the next thing that we want to happen here. So it's going to look for, is everyone at the account that we're approaching, are they updated within your CRM, or do we have a more up-to-date contact record, or are you missing people that would be relevant and relevant titles, relevant to your persona, to your buying committee? Then those are going to get added in at this point. Next point we want to do is we want to generate those AI messaging, that magic that the AI is doing, taking all those great signals and putting them together. After that, we're gonna add it to sequence. So just right in here for us, we use outreach. If you use something else, that would be something else. So we'll add it into sequence here. And then if you wanted to, the last step, if you wanted to do a LinkedIn audience sync, you could do that over there too. So that is the whole campaign now built out from the audience that we have there. And it's going to use those account scoring based on the audience that we have of, remember, only grade A accounts are going to go into this. There, we're going to update our CRM. We're going to generate the messaging. It's going to push straight into sequence. So that brings us to the last sort of part of what this all looks like, which is what happens on your prospect side, right? Or not, I'm sorry, not your prospect side, on your rep side. What happens for the SDR that now is working out of outreach and has to go contact those contacts that got pushed in by everything that you've determined over here in the background. So now your rep's going to be working from where they work. And then what we have here is the Chrome extension. So they get immediate context here. They can see, if they go over to the company side of this, they see the account score. Okay. But what's better than just seeing the account score here is seeing why the hell it scored like that. So this is an A account. No surprise when you see it has past champions. They're using Salesforce as a CRM, which means we can integrate with them. We've got website, they've been visiting our website over there. We see that from a few different, we like website visitors, so we track them a few different ways. So you can see that a few different times. So they've definitely been looking at us. They looked at us before, they're revived, closed, lost. So that increases our likelihood of them talking to us again. Someone there requested a demo in the last year. They're hiring for outbound. They've been at events that we've been at. They've also been opening our marketing emails. Someone there has been. So those are just all great things to see. No, again, no big surprise. This ended up an A account and pushed through. By the way, this is an actual task from my team for today. So everything you're seeing is the real deal from inside UserGems. So this is a task for someone on my team to accomplish today. So if I go back on the prospect side of things, now that I know why it's an A account, why am I talking to this prospect specifically? Well, he's the director of RevOps, so he is a decision maker for us. He's a matching persona for us, but he's also a past close lost op contact. So he has a lot more contacts than maybe somebody else at HiBob might have. He's familiar with us directly. He also worked at a customer of ours, so that's great too. So now my team working, whoever's got this one, well, Paolo actually had this one. He already made this call. I guess I had this sitting up for too long. He beat me to it. So Paolo, if he was to have gotten Gabe on the phone here, he had all of this great context to go off of. And he fully understands why this is an account that he would be working. So there's the trust loop that we were talking about in the beginning. So biggest thing here is the leader, you build the system, and then the rep gets the prioritization and the confidence because they understand it. Let's jump back over now that we're done with our live walkthrough. We've got a little bit of time left to wrap things up here. But please, of course, as I'm going, I should have said this in the beginning, missed it, sorry. But please, if you have any questions for me, if anything I didn't make any sense or I didn't cover something well enough, please throw it into the chat, and I will keep my eye out for anything that comes in there. And hopefully, we have some time at the end too for any questions that come up at the end. So, what you just saw is how all the pieces connect. Signals influence the account score. Those scores then determine which accounts rise to the top of prioritized audiences. And then Jemmy adapts outreach messaging based on the signals and context attached to that account. So instead of the rep starting with a blank page and doing research from scratch, they're starting with context. The system's already done the work of saying, these are the accounts worth paying attention to right now. And the most important part, here's why. So that's the really should be the goal of scoring. That's our goal of scoring, not just ranking accounts, but really helping reps start smarter conversations much faster. So last thing I want to talk about is getting reps to trust that scoring. So the last piece here, adoption, of course. So even the greatest models, even if your scoring's great, it won't work if your reps aren't going to trust it and aren't going to work those lists. So a few things that have helped us is showing the signals behind the scoring. Like I showed you, they do have that in the cheat sheet, but also running an enablement session with your team to explain all of those things, to kind of dive in the way I did with y'all just now, diving in with your team and really letting them understand how the system works, tying the scoring back to the real closed won deals, surfacing scores directly inside their workflow, like you saw, is really big. So it's right there where they're working. They don't have to go dig around for it and try to understand. Most importantly, of course, always, and if you've been in my past classes, you've heard me say this before, and you'll probably hear me say it again. But share wins internally, like really always sharing those wins, and sharing the scores. We do screenshots of all of our wins. So anytime there's a win, that Chrome extension I just showed you, the rep takes a screenshot of that Chrome extension. So they all get to see from each other, and take note themselves. What were the signals going on? What was the score of that account? It just starts to seep in that way. The more that they share and are celebrated, the more they're going to trust that too. So that is what's going to turn it from, just an idea or theory into something that they're actually going to rely on. All right, I feel like I was speaking really fast this time and we got through maybe a little bit quicker than usual. All right, let me see. Walk through your methodology of scoring A to D accounts. So the system's really what determines A to D. It's based off of, if I can go back over and I can go back into the actual scoring to talk through it while I'm sharing. So it's going to be based off of the fit and the signals. So, and part of the fit too is going to be not just does it have to like look like your customer accounts, with those fit ratings looking like your current closed won list, but it also has to have a relevant prospect at that account. Otherwise, it is not going to reach up to anywhere close to an A or B. If we can't find somebody to approach at the account, it doesn't matter how great the account looks, right? Like just like a rep would be, you got to have that right person. So those two things, the match to closed won and the attributes of a closed won account, um, as well as having a good, at least one good prospect make up that fit side of the score. And then the signals, the amount of signals that are going on is what's also going to determine the ranking. So you can see these numbers here, all of these numbers are what on each of these different sections are what is feeding to that overall A, B, C, D. And I'll tell you for us, we're not touching D's. Like D's need to become at least a C to be action at all. And primarily, we're only focused on A and B. And I'll tell you very clearly, my team is not touching it. We're not spending human hours on it if it's not an A or B. Michael, I hope that answered your question. Thanks for asking. Any other questions out there before we wrap it up today? Going once, going twice. Oh, great. All right. Most helpful signals and or messaging for your reps that you've seen success on. So, if I've got customers here or people that are pretty familiar with UserGems, then you probably know UserGems started out as a champion tracking tool. Champion tracking still, to this day, is probably not probably, is our highest converting standalone signal. But I will say, but we still layer it, and within the messaging, we still layer it. Um, with other signals. So when if there's a past champion, we're always going to talk to them, but that's not all we're going to talk to them about. We're going to layer in anything else that we found, or I should say the AI is going to layer in anything else that it found into those messaging too. And that's where we really see the success. So I do get asked a ton of like, what are the strongest signals? What should we be looking out for? That's kind of what we tried before that didn't really work so well for us, was just like going based off of these 1 point signals. It just doesn't do the job. It sounds great in theory, but when you're just talking about one thing at a time, you're just going off of one thing at a time, you're missing the big picture. Where like this gets really strong as far as account scoring, targeting, and messaging is when you're stacking all those signals. So it's not just about the strength of one, it's about the strength of it all together. And some signals aren't worth talking about in messaging, but they really matter in account scoring. Whereas others like are very, very strong in messaging, like any sort of relate past relationship context. All right, repasting mine here. How do the prospect scores roll up to the account score? Is the sum of all individual prospect score? No. So they do roll up. So some account score or prospect scoring does add into the overall score. That's where you see these prospect signals. So that will add into the overall score. And these will also determine the prioritization of which prospects are pushed into your campaign. If you remember the campaign that we just built, I said like we're only picking 5 prospects from each account. So we want the best. So those are going to be determined by all of this. And this does feed into the account scoring, but it is not solely based on that. It's based on a combination of all 4 of these sections. So again, the company similarity, that's based off of your closed won report. Your company signals, different things going on within at the company itself. Your prospect similarity, do they have the same titles as you have on your closed won report? And then the prospect signals. So it's a combination of all of it. Good question, John. Great questions, guys. Thanks for bringing the questions today. It makes it more fun. Anybody else? And I think next time I was going to try out this time, but there was a lot crammed in this week for me. So I think next time I want to try some breakout rooms. I'd really like to have this more as a like actual classroom setting where y'all can just jump in. We can have this more conversational. We can try out things together, rather than me just talking to myself. But thanks again for the questions in the chat. Helps me feel less like I'm talking to myself over here too, and hopefully makes it better for you too. You take away more from it. Well, if there's no more questions, we'll wrap it up for today. I really appreciate everybody joining me again. We'll continue these. I'm doing them once a quarter now, so be on the lookout for the next one. I'll email you about it. You'll see me post on LinkedIn, no doubt too. If we're not connected on LinkedIn, please connect with me on LinkedIn. If you ever want to talk, just like SDR leader, talk shop, therapy sessions, whatever you want there. I'm open for it. Or if you ever want to like dig in more, if you're a UserGems customer and you want to get like, hey, how are you, doing these more complex things? I'm happy to get in there. Yeah, just whatever. I'm open for it. So connect with me on LinkedIn. Thanks again. I'll hopefully see y'all next time. Have a good one.